Hello everyone. First of all, I would like to thank you all for joining this webinar today. And my name is Uma Maheshwari. I work here at Syncfusion as one of the product managers, handling few of the web UI components. So now today in this webinar, I'm going to present you the topics. What are the new stuffs introduced in Blazor components for this Volume 1 2022 release? And what are the new things added to our web components, I mean, Essential JS2 components for this Volume 1 2022 release, as well as at last, we'll see how to use gRPC-Web protocol in a Blazor WebAssembly application. So uh, let's dive into the topics now. So first, what's new in Blazor for this Volume 1 2022 release? So a new Fluent theme has been introduced in this release. So already we have a lot of existing themes. In addition to that, we have added a new Fluent theme in two variants, both light and dark. So I'll show you in sample browser how it will look in a couple of minutes. So just we'll discuss two more components before that. So next, we have marked our signature component as production ready from this release. So now you can start to use our signature component in your production environment. And next, we have introduced a new carousel component in this release. So with this component, you can display a collection of image items one at a time. So you can have a look at this image over here that displays the image like an image gallery. So let's have a look at the examples now for all the three features we have discussed now. So I hope you can see the sample browser here. By default, the Fluent theme is selected over here. So this is the light variant. And if I choose the dark variant, you can see the difference, how this theme is being applied to the components. So now you can apply this Fluent theme to all our Blazor components. And next we have seen about the new carousel component. Let me change back to the light variant. Okay, fine. So here you can see the carousel component. Uh, you can see the elements available over here to navigate between the images. The dotted line, the dots shown at the bottom are the indicators that indicates the current active slide, and the navigators are used to move back and forth between the slides. So here you can see 5 dots. So there are 5 images added to this carousel component. You can also customize these indicators, navigators, and you can even add the content as well inside this carousel component. So here you can see um, the indicators are customized with smaller images. So when you click on the indicators at the bottom, you can switch between the slides. You can check out these examples from our sample browser as well as from our documentation. So what's new? What are the new features added to the data grid component in Blazor? So we have added a reactive aggregation feature. So with this feature, now you can update the aggregate cell values dynamically instead of refreshing the entire data grid. So here you can see this GIF image where the data cell values are changed. So here the batch edit mode is enabled, and whenever the values are changed, you can notice the footer and group footer values are changed accordingly whenever you make changes to the particular cell value. So this is how the reactive aggregation feature works. There is a example in our sample browser as well, so you can check out this from there as well. And next, uh, we have introduced the PDF, new feature to customize the grid cells whenever it is being exported to the PDF format. So you can see the header orientation. So not only the header orientation, but you can also apply any of the font related changes or any styles if you want to make to the exported PDF document. So I mean the grid, whenever you export your grid to the PDF format, the exported document can be customized now. So this is one such feature added to the data grid. And next, what are the new features added to charts component? Um, to the charts component, we have added the border support for area charts. So here you can have a look at this border to provide a sharp border support to differentiate between the different series and the legend spacing. So previously there has been no option to change the spacing between the legend text. So now the API is provided to customize this spacing. And next, tooltip improvement has been made as an entirely to have some smooth transitions uh, whenever you move from one point to another point. And also the appearance of the tooltip has also been improved. So it has been all these improvements are a smaller update made to the charts component, and the keyboard navigation support has also been provided so that now you can make use of the key configurations to navigate between the interactive elements of the charts. So let's have a look at the examples from the sample browser for these features. So to the spline area chart, you can see the borders that are applied over here. And as I said, the keyboard navigation support has been provided. So you can see the key configurations listed here. So whichever you can make use of it to navigate between the chart elements. So just have a tryout with this example to check this keyboard navigation. The next update is for the diagram component. To the diagram component, text node support has been added. So now you can add the text directly to the diagram page. Previously, you might have added the text to any of the shapes or any of the diagram elements. I mean, you'll be adding through that particular shapes or diagram elements. Now you can add the text nodes directly to the pages, and you can also perform selection, dragging, resize, or you can even rotate the text node just by double clicking on it and typing the text whatever you want. So that is what you can see here in this GIF image. And to the dashboard layout component, improvements have been made to the drag and drop feature to enhance the smooth transition whenever you drag and drop the layout panels. So, so let me show you the dashboard layout example. So, so now you can see the smooth transitions. Just a simple click and simple move makes the drag and drop action very smoother. Next, moving on to the features added to scheduler component. So in this release, visual scrolling support has been provided to the timeline year view. Already, the visual scrolling support is available for other views, but from this release to the timeline year view, this particular support has been added. So we all know whenever we want to load huge number of data, I mean, the data can be anything like a huge number of resources, or it can be of huge number of appointments. So whenever you go with such huge volume of data, you can make use of this virtual scrolling to have better performance, and you can load only the visible items on the viewport by using this feature, and the rest of the things gets loaded while you scroll through the resources or dates. And apart from this particular feature, there are some performance improvements has been that are made to the scheduler from this release is um, uh, the initial rendering time has been improved, as well as whenever you perform CRUD operations, you can perform all these actions 3 times faster than before while loading large number of resource and appointments. So this is one major update, performance related update for the scheduler component. And the same thing, same performance improvements applies for the Gantt chart component as well. So now you can load the tasks and resources. Uh, you can load large number of tasks and resources very faster with this performance improvements. Let me show you the example for that visual scrolling. So here you can see the scheduler. Actually, there are 300 resources loaded to the scheduler and approximately 3,500 plus appointments. So whenever I scroll, uh, the appointments of that particular viewport gets loaded, and while scrolling through the resources, it loads dynamically. And next, to the PDF viewer component, now you can work with PDF viewer on Mac and Linux. So with .NET 6.0 framework. So this has been made possible by replacing the system.drawing.common dependency with Skia Sharp. So this particular replacement has made it possible to uh, work with PDF viewer on Mac and Linux with .NET 6.0 framework. And to the maps component, animation support has been added to layers. So now you can have a smooth transition while zooming and panning, as you can see in this GIF image. I will also show you in the example. And to the linear gauge component, again, the animation support has been added to the pointers. Actually, we have the pointer types marker and bar pointers. So now the animation support has been added for both the pointers, and you can specify the animation duration to mention how long it should last. And you can even animate multiple pointers as well. So now let's have a look at the examples. So here you can see the animation duration has been set to 500 ms, and I'm just reducing it, and I perform zoom in option. So based on the duration, you can see the changes over here. And next we'll have a look at the linear gauge component. So here you can see the couple of examples for pointers, and let me switch to this marker pointer, and here you can see the animation for the pointers, and this is for bar pointer. And next, what's new with the document processing libraries, that is the word processor. So to the word processor component, comment only restriction feature has been added. So with this feature, now you can restrict the user from editing a Word document. So you can just allow them to add and edit the comments instead of editing the content of that Word document. So this is what the particular feature will help you. Just for this particular feature will help the reviewers to review the document, and not by not allowing them to edit the content of the document. And paragraph auto spacing feature has been added. So with this feature, you can add or remove the space before or after the paragraphs automatically. So I will show the examples for these features while discussing in the Essential JS2 updates. So um, you can see the fields before and after, through which you can control the spacing before and after the paragraph. And there is a feature screen tip for hyperlinks. So you can add or edit the screen tip text for the hyperlinks in your document. By default, whatever thing that is mentioned in this address will be displayed as a screen tip. But once you provide this screen tip text, so this particular content will get displayed while you hover over the text in your document. And so next, moving on to the PDF library, some performance improvements has been made. So so that now the PDF library can convert from the PDF to PDF-A format 2.5 times faster than before. So now you can also, now the PDF library also supports the conversion of PDF-A format to normal PDF format. So these are the updates for PDF library. And next to the Word, Excel, and PowerPoint libraries, um, all these three libraries now supports PDF conversion in a Blazor WASM applications. So while performing such conversions, you can also retain the same styles. Say for example, if you are converting the Word document into PDF, so whatever styles, comments, or any images, whatever you have added in your Word document, you can maintain the same styles in your converted PDF document as well. So these are the updates for new updates for Blazor components. And now we'll have a look at some breaking changes introduced in Blazor for this volume 1 2022 release. So in this release, actually we have usually we used to refer the themes from this Blazor themes package. It will get automatically referred from the syncfusion.blazor.core package. But now from this release, we are just removing this dependency. We are just removing this from the core package. So it is no, this particular package is no more a dependency of this core package. We have done this change because in case if you are using CDN links for your styles in your application, then it is not necessary to refer themes in your application. So considering that particular scenario, we have removed this from the core package. And in case if you so now if you want to refer themes from your from the static web assets, then you need to make sure to install this from the NuGet package separately, and in order to use it from the static web assets. And then an important update regarding the JavaScript isolation. So previously, while adding the Syncfusion Blazor service in your program.cs file, you might be adding this additional options that ignore script isolation equal to true. But now we have um, marked it as obsolete now. So you no need to mention this particular property to this add Syncfusion Blazor method now. So we have already we have added this. Already we have marked it as true inside our source. So it is not necessary to disable it from the application end now. But anyhow, you need to load the scripts externally from the application end to have the better performance. So in case, so if you want to use the JavaScript isolation feature, then you have to go with any of these two ways. You need to load scripts externally from the CDN or static web assets. Or in case, and if you want to enable the JavaScript isolation, you need to set ignore script isolation property as false, which is shown over here when you add the Syncfusion Blazor service. So this is one such update for the JavaScript isolation feature. And the next update breaking change is with the unversioned CDN links. So Syncfusion offers both versioned and unversioned CDN links. Usually, we'll update the latest scripts inside the recent release version updates are done to these unversioned CDN links. But from this volume 1 2022 release, so we are not going to maintain the latest version scripts in this particular unversion links. But if in case if you have used this unversion links in your applications, so to avoid the breaking, we are just maintaining the volume 4 2021 script updates in this particular unversion CDN links. So we recommend you to make use of version CDN links from this volume 1 2022 release. So these three breaking changes are introduced in this volume 1 2022 for the Blazor components. So, okay, now next we'll move on to what are the new updates with Essential JS2 components for this volume 1 2022 release. So the common update is again the new Fluent theme is applicable for all the Essential JS2 components as well. So that is a common update here. And again, the signature component is also marked as production ready in Essential JS2 platforms as well. So for all the platforms, Angular, React, Vue, and so all the web platforms, you can now make use of the signature component in your production environment. And the carousel component, which we have seen on the in the Blazor update, is again comes with all the features in for all the Essential JS2 platforms as well. And there is a new update, new support made for the view components. That is, a slot template support has been added for the view components. So now you can render the templates using slots. So this is for mainly useful whenever you want to reuse the templates and make use of it in your different components. So this particular support has been now added to all our Syncfusion View components. And apart from the features which we are seeing now, the apart from those common features, to the chart component in Essential JS2 platforms, we have added a legend wrap support. So now you can wrap the legend text whenever it overflows the container. Say for example, if there is a div container of particular width, and if the legend text overflows that particular container, then you can wrap it to the next line. So which you can have a look at this image, self-supporting operations. Next to the file manager component, now you can sort the files in the navigation pane, either in the ascending or descending order. And there is also a sort by option, using which you can customize the default sort field. By default, the names are sorted in the ascending order, but using this, we can customize the sort field in whatever format you want. And next to the pivot table component, expand all members feature has been added. So to the pivot table component, expand all members feature, this feature will allow you to expand all the members of both the row and column axis. So if you have the headers at the row and the column axis, you can now expand them all together by making use of this feature. And there is a query cell event using which you can customize the cell values as well. So you can set specific styles to the cell while creating them in the pivot table. Whenever you are creating a row, column, or any value cell, you can customize them at the time of its creation using this query cell event. And next to the word processor PDF viewer scheduler component, the same feature updates which we have discussed in Blazor, it is applicable for the Essential JS2 platforms as well. So the next important update with Essential JS2 is from this release onwards, all the Syncfusion customers have to generate and register their license key while you making use of the Essential JS2 products. So, so you can generate the key from here in your accounts page under the manage trials. So whatever package you have downloaded, so you can get the license key from here by choosing the appropriate platforms and the version and get license key. So you'll be getting this license key, and let me show you how to register this license key. So I will also share this page how to register this. So for every platforms to the JavaScript in the JavaScript platform, so you need to register it in this format. So it is available from the base package. So after you refer the JavaScript Syncfusion JavaScript file reference, you need to register this with the license key ej base.register license, and license key should be provided here. And in the TypeScript, JS ES6, before you start to use the Syncfusion controls, you need to register the license key at the entry point. So you need to import the register license method from the EJ2 base package, and then you need to make use of this EJ base.register license method. And here you need to provide your license key. And to the Angular projects, in the main.ts file, you need to register the license key. So here you can have a look at this particular line. Imported the register license from EJ2 base, and then registered the license key with this register license method. And to the React platform, you need to register the license key in the index.js file. So here you can see again the register license is imported from EJ2 base and then registered with this particular line. And in the view platform, again, you need to register it in the index.js file by importing the register license method from EJ2 base, and then register it with this particular method by passing the license key to it. So, so now you need to, this particular license key registration is mandated from this volume 1 2022 release. And next, moving on to the updates with extensions. So to the Visual Studio extension, um, ASP.NET Core project template has been added. So now you can create web apps with Razor pages by making use of the Syncfusion ASP.NET Core components. And to the VS Code, the ASP.NET Core Template Studio extension has been added. So now you can create the Syncfusion ASP.NET Core applications directly from the VS Code. So these are the two updates with the Visual Studio and VS Code extensions of Syncfusion. At last, now, finally we'll move on to the section how to use gRPC-Web protocol in a Blazor WebAssembly application. So So before we have a look at, before we see about this gRPC web protocol, we'll have a short intro about the REST services and what is gRPC and what is gRPC web. So what are the difference between them? So it's not going to take more time for if you want to replace the REST service with gRPC web. But let's have a short intro about it. So we all know the REST services. We use it in our modern web apps to exchange the data between client and server. So, and it is also a known fact that REST services uses the JSON format to handle such two-way communication. So JSON is the standard file format to avail this communication. To make this communication. So although for the most of the years we have been using this REST services, now in this webinar we'll see an alternative way to replace this REST service with the gRPC web protocol. So before moving on to that, particular point, what is gRPC and what is gRPC-Web? Okay, so gRPC is a remote procedure call, actually, a framework or system created by Google in 2015. So actually, it has been created for the purpose of having better performance when transferring data between the client and server. So actually, it makes use of HTTP2 to streamline the message between client and server. So like how the REST services uses JSON format, here the gRPC uses the protocol buffer language to transfer the um, messages in a binary format, so that this particular thing will make the communication faster. I mean, it reduces the bandwidth as well as um, makes the performance to reach a very higher state. So now, as I said, that this particular gRPC makes use of HTTP2 protocol, but this HTTP2 cannot be is not compatible with web browsers. So to overcome this particular problem, Microsoft introduced gRPC Web Protocol to enable the communication between the browser apps and the gRPC server. So here in this scenario, to make it simple, whenever a browser sends a normal HTTP request, so this particular gRPC web acts as a middleware. So acts as a proxy. I can say it as a proxy or middleware, and it gets the request, HTTP request from the browser, and translates it to the server. And again, whenever the server responds back, it again receives the response and translate it and then send it back to the browser. So this is how the gRPC web will work. And so now let's see how to use gRPC web in a Blazor WebAssembly application. So the only thing is gRPC web will allow us to enable the communication between the browser apps and the gRPC server. So now I'm going to create a Blazor WebAssembly app being hosted from the ASP.NET Core server. So let me open my Visual Studio now. So before that, let me show you what are all the packages we need to work with this gRPC web service. So here you can see, as I said, that I'm going to create a Blazor WASM app with the ASP.NET Core hosted. So I'll have the shared project, server project, and client project. And I need these three Google Protobuf, gRPC Net Client, and gRPC tools to be installed in this shared project. And to the server project, I need these. I need this couple of packages. And to the client project, I need this gRPC Net Client Web. So let's first install all these packages to the appropriate projects. So I'm just going to open my Visual Studio. So let me create a new project. So I'll choose Blazor WebAssembly. So make sure to enable this ASP.NET Core hosted and create it. Okay, so now we have three projects, shared, server, and client. Now just start with let's start with installing the packages first. To the shared project, I just open the manage NuGet package, and here I need to import the Google Protobuf package, and next gRPC .NET .client. Next, I need to install gRPC tools. So here you can see the 3 packages that are installed as we have seen in that slide. And next, moving on to the server project, I need to add a couple of packages over here. So I again open the manage NuGet package and look for gRPC.ASP.NET Core and install it. Next, gRPC.ASP.NET Core.web. So let me install this as well. So here you can see the couple of packages installed. And now moving on to the client project. Here I need to add gRPC net.client.web. So you can see here now all the packages are installed to the appropriate projects. Excuse me. So now the next step is to the shared project. I need to add a proto file. So I'm going to create a proto file here to define the remote procedure calls. So I'll just add a new item. So I'm just going to add a class, but make it as the .proto extension. So before that, before moving on to the further steps, let me tell you what I'm going to show in this project. So we are just going to see the basic configuration and how the gRPC web performs well, perform better than the REST services. So I'm just going to I'm just going to add one more component into this pages folder. And repeat the same fetch data component. So here you can see this particular component that retrieves the data from weather forecast service from this server. And to this pages folder, I'm going to add one more component, and I will copy the same UI, but I'm going to fetch data using the gRPC-Web service call. So this is what I'm going to do in this project. So now moving on to the shared project, I'll create a proto file. So this is the proto file. This proto file, it will generate the model class at the behind uh, to communicate between the client and server. So I'm just going to create a weather forecast dot proto file. So here I'm going to just replace this code. So for the time being, I already had this code. So it's a protocol buffer language, but let me explain what are those code meant for. So So you can see the first line here. So before moving on to the explanation of these code, so I said that this particular proto file, what it will do is it will act as a middleware between it is the one that communicates between the client and server. So this particular file will also generate the C# code at the behind. So here you can see the weather forecast class. So we used to define the fields, I mean properties over here, but the same thing can be done with the use of, when by defining it as a message. So if I define a message, a weather forecast, so it will compile and create a backend code as a model class with the fields mentioned over here of type daytime and temperature. C is a field of type integer and summary is a field of type string, and you can have a look at this unique numbers assigned to each of the field. So this is like this is for while processing those fields, uh, instead of looking for them through its name, it will process all those fields with this unique numbers, so to make the process faster. So, okay, now let's start from the beginning line. So here you can see the syntax equal to proto 3. So this line indicates that we are going to make use of proto 3 syntax. There is a proto 2 syntax as well, but here we are going to use proto 3. You can also have a look at the documentation of protocol buffer language. If you want to learn if you want to deep dive into this. And next, moving on to this particular line, option C sharp namespace, I'm just providing this project namespace. So this will indicate that I have said that the proto file will generate a code. So where to place that generated code? I mean, under which namespace I need to place the generated code. So whenever I provide this particular name, the generated code will be placed under this namespace. And the next line you can see here, in case if I don't provide the C sharp namespace over here, then the generated code will be placed under this weather forecast namespace. So that is what the two lines of code are meant for. And already I have explained about this message definition. And you can also have one or more message definitions. You can see a weather forecast response message over here. So it again holds the field of type weather forecast, so which is another message, this weather forecast. So it is not, it acts like a object, I mean just like class object concept. It will act as an object but holds the collection of these fields. And next to the important thing is this is I mean so okay. So here you can see the service weather forecast service. So this is nothing but I'm going to define the remote procedure call. So in the server project, I'll be implementing this method get weather forecast. So here I need to add this service interface. So here I'm just making I mean, I'm just defining the get weather forecast, and this is nothing but the request, and this is nothing but the response. So, what type of request it is going to receive, and what type of response it is going to return. This is what you need to mention within these parentheses, within this. So, here I'm not going to this particular service is not going to receive any request. So the request is empty. So I just so the empty is mentioned over here, but it is going to return the message of type weather forecast response. So it is nothing but the array of weather forecast objects. So that is what the meaning of this particular service interface. So that's all about the proto file. And once you have defined this proto file, now to compile this particular file, I need to change the properties. So to the build action of this particular file, I need to change the none option to protobuf compiler, and also make sure whether you have chosen the client and server option for the gRPC stub classes. So now all is done with the proto file. Then now move on to the weather forecast this particular model class. As I said, now the weather forecast will be generated at the code behind. So I'm going to just make it as partial to define some additional properties to the weather forecast class. So we have already defined this temperatures, C summary and date within this proto file with appropriate types. So I can remove them from here. But I just keep this date field over here because I need to make some conversions inside this date field. Um, so date timestamp dot to the set property. So let me fix this. So, and I'm just to use this timestamp, I need to, I'm accessing it from the Google protobuf. Since, uh, so I need to make use of this particular namespace here. So that's all for the shared project. Now let me move on to the server project. So first I'll go to the program.cs file, and here I need to add the gRPC services to the container. So here in this section, I'll add builder.services.add gRPC. So now I need to implement the logic of this application in a service class. So let me create services inside this server project. So I'll add a new folder services, and I'll add a new class and give it a name weather forecast service. So let me keep it as dot server. So I'm going to inherit this weather forecast service from the shared weather forecast service. So from the shared project, I'm going to inherit dot. So, okay. So now you can have a look at over here. Two classes are being generated. That is weather forecast service base and weather forecast service client. So these are the two classes that are dynamically generated by the proto file. So here I'm going to inherit from this weather forecast service base. And here I'm just going to take the data from this controller. So I'm just copying this same code. Let me change the data over here. I'm going to generate 365 records, objects. So let me copy this. And here inside the service, now let me create a method. Public I enumerable of type weather forecast. And here I have defined, okay, so I need to take the data for summaries as well. So let me take that particular code from here. Okay, so let me fix the, I mean, I just need to add the appropriate references here. Okay, so now okay, now, so the next step is I need to define the, I mean, I need to override the method which is added in the proto file. So here you might have seen this get weather forecast method defined over here. So now I need to implement this. I mean, I need to override this method in the service class. So here I'm going to override. So as I said, it is going to return a return a result of type weather forecast response. So let me forecast, and here I need to define the empty request. So to use this particular empty type, I need to make use of this protobuf namespace, and to make use of this server call context, I need to access it from gRPC core. Okay, so now I'll write the code by defining a variable to call this get forecast method, which I have defined now. So from the response we have already seen, so weather forecast response is nothing but it contains a collection of this weather forecast objects. So here I'm going to add the collection of data from this get forecast method. So this method will generate an array of objects, weather forecast objects, 365 records. So I'm just going to add it to the response here. Then I'll return it at last of type weather forecast response. So that's all the changes to make in the service file. Now I'll move on to the program.cs file, and here I need to configure the gRPC-Web middleware now. So now after this use routing, I'll add app.use gRPC-Web with the default options enabled for the gRPC-Web. So options enable true, and then I need to add the route endpoints dot. So here I'm going to register the weather forecast service, I mean gRPC service. So I'm going to refer it from, sorry, from the server. So that's all with the server configuration. Now let me move on to the client file. And here inside the program.cs file, I need to add the weather forecast service to the container here as well. And then I need to create a gRPC-Web channel that points to the backend server. And then I need to instantiate the gRPC clients for this channel. So there are four lines of code over here. So for the time being, I'm just copying those codes, those configuration codes from a notepad. So So here you can see the weather forecast service is added to the container, and then a gRPC web channel is again created, and that points to the backend URL. And then it is instantiated. I mean, the gRPC clients are instantiated for this particular channel. So let me resolve all these things by adding the appropriate namespaces. Okay, so now finally I will add the another Razor component inside this pages folder. So I will add a Razor component and name it as gRPC. So as I said that I'm going to copy the entire thing from, I mean the UI part I'm going to copy from here, fetch data. So here I don't need this HTTP client. I don't need to inject this, but I need to inject the weather forecast service. So I inject weather forecast service dot weather. Okay, so now you need to make a note of this particular weather forecast service client. So previously in the service class, we made use of this base class, and here I am going to make use of this client. This client. And now let me define the code section. So here I'm going to make a call to the gRPC web service. So let me first define a private variable of type ilist weather forecast. I'm just going to define that same variable so that it can be directly made use of in the above code. And next, I'm going to define the onInitialized method. So to the forecasts variable, since it is a async type, so let me await this method call. So I'm just going to call from the weather forecast service client dot. From here, I'm going to make a call to this get weather forecast, which we have defined in the proto file. So, and also in the service class. And I am just going to pass the empty request and accessing the. So let me. Sorry. So get weather forecast async. So that's all about the code to access from the gRPC web. So now let me add this component into the navigation menu. So, okay, so all is done now. Now let's build and start with the project now. So projects are compiling and so the compilation is done now. I mean the project has a build has been completed. So now let me run it now. Okay. So here you can see the difference. So this weather forecast is nothing but the one that is, I mean, this request is made through this page, the normal REST service. And here you can see the size of data transferred over the network is 55.6 KB. And the gRPC, I mean, the page that accessed, I mean, it receives data from the gRPC-Web service. So here you can see the get weather forecast method, and it just transfers 10.5 KB over the network. So it is completely a great thing. So you can see the difference here, a major difference. And if you want, I can also show the payload. So you can see the binary format. And also the payload will be in the protobuf language. Sorry. So here you can see the content type as gRPC web and the weather forecast is of JSON type. So that's all about the topic for today. So thank you all for listening to the webinar topic and to all the Blazor and web updates from the Syncfusion. So thank you all.